Hi, my name's Dumi. I use they, them pronouns, and I am a somatic sex and relationship coach. Today, I'm going to be offering you 3 questions that I really love to ask my lovers and partners and strangers that I'm having sex with before I have sex with them. And so, without further ado, question number 1 is, how would you like to feel when you have sex? I'm a very body person. How would you like to feel when you have sex? And so for me, this is such a fun question. In my work, we call these our core desires. What is your core desire when having sex? But your core desire essentially is, what is that feeling that you want to get at that makes sex really good for you? So we live in a society that kind of tells us that sex is sex is sex is sex is sex, and sex for you is the same as sex for me. The wind is getting super worked up and saying like, yes, we totally agree, this is bullshit. Sex for you is the same as it is for me, and it's not. And what makes sex good for you is not what makes sex good for me, and there's no like objectively good sex in the universe. I don't know, maybe God knows, but I certainly don't think so. And so it's about figuring out like, what is subjectively good sex? What is sex that is really good for me? And part of figuring that out is asking, what do I want to feel when I have sex? And so this is different for everyone. For me, I want to feel special. I call this my special star fantasy. I want to feel like the center of the universe. I want to feel adored and worshipped and literally like the most important person in the world to the person that I'm having sex with, the most beautiful, the sexiest, the hottest person in the world to that person or the people that I'm in the room with. And so that's mine. You might say, oh, that sounds awful, or ooh, that sounds really good, or that sounds exactly like me. You can have so many different responses because your core desire is going to be dependent on you and your life experiences that have shaped this desire. And so if you're not entirely sure, I'll give you a few. Like, you could want to feel safe, you could want to feel secure, you could want to feel special, you could want to feel humiliated, you could want to feel powerful, you could want to feel controlled, you could want to feel submissive. There are so many things that you could want to feel when you have sex. And so if you're not entirely sure, if you're not entirely sure, you can think about your fantasies, think about the porn that you watch, think about the erotica that you read, and think about, as I adjust this, think about what is the core dimension in all of those things and all of those experiences. You can even think about past sexual experiences that have just been like, and then ask yourself, what made that amazing? What was I feeling that made that amazing? And that is how you find your core desire. And so the second question that I would ask someone that I am about to have sex with, finger guns, is how do we want to navigate consent here? Once again, the wind is agreeing. How do we want to navigate consent here? I would say my first question, which is how do you want to feel, is addressing this internal dimension of sex, right? Like that sex is first and foremost about what is happening inside of us, and it's about our connection to ourselves. And so we do have to know how we want to feel. Then the second part of navigating good sex is knowing like, okay, how do we build a container for this? And that's what I think consent does. It's saying like, what are the boundaries here? What are the rules and regulations? How are we navigating this? And so we didn't grow up in a society that really encouraged us to seek consent. And now we're doing that and we're navigating that process for ourselves and figuring out like, ooh, how do I want to be asked for consent? That's the first and foremost question. How do I want to be asked for consent? And that's something that you can navigate with your partner. You can let your partner know how you would like to be asked for consent, and they can let you know how they would like to be asked for consent. And then you find, once again, you find a little middle meeting place to navigate that together. Same with core desires. You find a middle meeting place where your core desires and their core desires can meet and come together and find like really good ways of having sex. And sometimes they don't come together, and then that is something you have to navigate. But navigating consent, for example, I like to be asked for consent at every sexual escalation. So I want to be asked for consent when we move from kissing to bodily touch to chest play to pussy play. I want to be checked in with at every single escalation. So that would look like what I would say to my partner is like, hey, hi, my name's Dumi, we're about to have sex. Isn't that wonderful? I want you to ask for consent when we move, or when you would like to do more than kiss me. So if we're making out and we're having a really great time, you can say something like, ooh, I really want to touch your chest. And then I can say, yes, that sounds amazing. Or no, actually, I'd like you to do this. Or just no. Maybe I say, no, I've had it. Thank you so much. I am full now. And so there are so many ways of navigating this. You can find your language and what feels good to you. Another way of navigating consent for some people, like some people could hear what I just said and say, oh, that sounds awful. I don't want to be asked for consent at every sexual escalation. That just does not sound good. And that's okay. There's no right or wrong way to do this. And so then you might say, oh, I want to be, hi, my name's Dumi. I use they, them pronouns. We're about to have sex. I don't like being asked for consent beyond the first conversation that we have where we're saying, let's have sex. And so I am going to do a really good job of maintaining my boundaries so that you can trust that I am maintaining my boundaries and that you're not going to cross any of my boundaries. And if we do ever get to a point where I'm like, hey, I'm uncomfortable, I'm going to let you know. Because it can be kind of scary for people to navigate in that kind of container when they are not sure of whether you will do a good job of holding your boundaries, or whether they're going to cross your boundaries without knowing it and then feel really awful. And so that is consent. There's so much more that we could say here, but I just want to tie it up. So we have the first two questions. The third question that I would offer to you, and I hear a helicopter coming and I'm like, don't interrupt my video. The third question that I would offer to you is, how do you like to be fucked? And so this for me is like one of the most exciting and wonderful questions, because it really gets at the physical dimensions of sex. It also covers like, how do you not like to be fucked? How do you not like to be touched? Where on your body do you not want me to touch? Like, what are areas of sensitivity that I should know about? But it also allows you to communicate to your partner about the fun things like, hi, once again, my name's Dumi, I use they, them pronouns, we're about to have sex, and I love when people suck on my ears. And so that is what I really want you to do to me. You can do that. Or I really like when people touch the back of my neck, or I love when people lick my armpits, or I love when people like call me a dirty slut. Whatever it is. You know, I love when people touch me with really like a hard pressure, or when I'm thrown against the wall. Or I like being touched in a very soft and gentle and caring way. And so that is your opening to talk about all of those fun and juicy things, and to say like, what exactly is going to make this physical experience of sex, because I think this third question really gets at like the physicality of having sex. What is going to physically make for good sex? And so that gives you the opening, the door to do all that fun exploration work. And so those are my three questions. Question number 1, how do you want to feel during sex? Question number 2, how do we want to navigate consent here? Question number 3, how do you want to be fucked? And so that's it. Those are the questions. I hope you enjoyed them. I hope they're useful to you. Adapt them in whatever way you see fit. And I hope that you have wonderful, great, delicious sex with yourself or with other people. Sending you all so much love. Mwah.